So today we're breaking down one of the best defensive performances I could remember from a coach at LSU, Blake Baker. The blitz packages were absolutely nasty. The last one to close this one out is going to blow your mind. But first, we got to start off with the tone setter in the first quarter. So there's two reasons why going into this game you absolutely positively want to blitz Clemson. The first is they have a running back who is just now playing running back, a wide receiver in Adam Randall, who honestly was fine in this game. But the second part of it is Cade Klubnik is a very good runner, and it's hard for defensive linemen with their speed to run him down compared to a corner, right? Cade is never outrunning a corner coming off the edge, and P.J. Woodland gets the first huge defensive play of this game for LSU. This play shows you everything you need to know about Blake Baker and what he did later in the game. So what Clemson's trying to do is run that pick play that they got away with later in the half. So it's man-to-man, cover one, and obviously they're running a shallow drag, and the job of this is to pick off or block, if you will, the corner trailing this receiver. So you can see that this receiver is trying to get back behind the line of scrimmage, and they're trying to set like a little screen, if you will, to hit this receiver on a shallow drag. The problem is this is a longer developing play, and Blake Baker actually calls a play that he has mastered, okay? The design of this is to have two contained defenders be freed up by three rushers all crashing into the inside. So Patrick Payton crashes in, this DT stays central, this end, Jack Pybron goes in, and basically the new contained defenders become the DT here and the backer coming around here, okay? Now, there is a downside with your defensive tackle, Ahmad Bro, being the new contained defender, is that while he does have a free run at the QB here, he's not fast enough to stop Cade Klubnik from getting around him, okay? So you see, he misses him. He cuts off Whit Weeks, who was there unblocked, and they're not able to keep contained. And remember, that route was going to this side, so LSU doesn't have a whole lot of defenders over here, and this ends up being an absolutely positively massive scramble here for Cade. So Blake Baker seeing that, and he's like, hey, I can't let this happen again. So guess what LSU elects to do? They get down into the red zone, and they're like, F this. We're not going to let Cade beat us with his legs. So we're blitzing Harold Perkins off the edge, and then we're bringing Whit Weeks around the edge right here, and we're just not going to let him run around us. Once again, this is a wide receiver coming across to block Harold Perkins. We want that matchup all day, every day. Receiver does absolutely nothing. I'll tell you, Clemson's wide receivers are one of the softest groups I think I've seen for being a good group. You get a big sack. And obviously, number 2, future first-round pick, Jackson Dart kind of vibes. Who remembers that play from Harold Perkins' true freshman season? It's crazy it's been that long, and it's good to have primetime Perk back. So let's get to a play where Blake Baker actually didn't blitz at all, okay? And it's actually this third down play. You bring only 3, and this is where Blake Baker started getting himself in trouble last year in the USC game, where he kept trying to do some very exotic inverted coverages. So at the snap here, it looks as if this is cover 2, but instead this becomes cover 3. So we have this safety fan out, this safety fan out. Deshaun Spears now becomes the center fielder. And in this spot, maybe I think Whit needs to get out here quicker. I don't know. But we don't want to give up easy pitch and catch right here. Obviously, it's 3rd and goal. If you gang tackle a little bit quicker, you're making them kick a field goal. Is this a legal man downfield? Obviously, the 50-50 calls went Clemson's way. Now, he got that out just in time. I don't know what 52 is doing there. But, we don't want that, right? It sets up a 4th down, and Clemson obviously scores. So this is a really good pressure that teams run versus Garrett Nussmeier quite a bit, because throughout the LSU tenure under Brian Kelly, we love working comeback routes, opposite trips, right? We did it nonstop with Malik Neighbors, and USC, as in South Carolina, almost had a pick doing something somewhat similar versus us last year. So the design of this simulated pressure, act like you're coming, and then you work underneath the flat. So our goal right here is to bail our corner and hope that our end can get out here on the wide receiver. Okay, so you'll see that Butler can't get out there quick enough. He turns his head, and obviously Clemson is able to play pitch and catch. So I understood the vision. Maybe a guy like Jack Pyburn, who did this role quite a bit for Florida, would be in a better spot. But Wesco is able to pick up the first down. But I want you to see how well this unit is coached, okay? So I believe this is 91 Walter Mathis, a true freshman, getting some work here. And this is Jacoby and Guillory. So this is as big of a gap as you're going to see in age, a year 6 guy and a year 1 guy. And their jobs here are pretty simple. We want you to be able to hold up these offensive linemen enough so we can get an unblocked A-gap pressure up the gut. So the center doubles Jacoby and Guillory. Guillory does a good job drawing their attention. Mathis does a good job holding on to this guard right here. Now, you can't just tug him, but he engages him enough to get Devon Keys through this hole. And look at this pressure. Boom. Okay? The guard saved it just in time, but it worked, right? It was just better execution from the offense. And honestly, Clemson's offensive line was just hot dog water ass in this game. This should have been sorted out. But once again, Blake Baker calls another great pressure. LSU did a good job disguising their pressures throughout the game. And one thing that Clemson was always worried about was Harold Perkins blitzing from the second level. This time, this is just a simple 5-man pressure. And you would like to think in this spot that the center picks up the DT, the guard picks up this blitzer, and the tackle picks up the outside player. But what happens here, and it just depends on the protection call, is that 78 actually picks up Weeks, and he leaves Cade Klubnik hot right here. So Cade probably thought 78 was going to pick up Patrick Payton. Patrick Payton and Cade Klubnik know each other pretty well. And take a look at this. All right, Patrick has really good closing speed and really long arms. And guess what? Cade airmails it. Look at this. Boom. He is open, but the blitz got home just in time, and it's a pick. Now, this is the danger by obviously surviving and thriving with blitzes. It keeps you very exposed on the back end, okay? So if Cade works Adam Randall here, this is probably a massive, massive gain. Or if you work the shallow drag, obviously Perk would have had that covered. But the blitz's speed quarterbacks up, and he throws it away. Alrighty, injuries are so freaking important. So this time, you bring a blitz from Whit Weeks. And guess what? The freaking Clemson Tigers run behind it. The play we love more than anything else on PHL, Hoss Juke. Now, I can't tell if it's Hoss because I can't tell if this is a comeback route to the outside, but the goes are being run from the slots, and this becomes a juke route over the middle. So Cade Klubnik said after the game that this receiver, Brown, did a good job filling in for Antonio Williams. That's hogwash. Antonio Williams clears him. And in this spot, watch Harold Perkins just lock him down, right? You feel better about this matchup if it's Williams. This time the blitzes are picked up perfectly from Clemson. And guess what? Harold Perkins just absolutely shuts Williams down right here and makes a really nice tackle in a really difficult spot in man-to-man coverage. So I love this call right here from Blake Baker. This time, your in becomes a QB spy, and you bring him, you bring him, you bring him, and you're trying to get Whit Weeks home, all right? The only problem with this is nobody was responsible for the leaking running back, but still, we have Cade basically just running, all right? The coverage is unbelievable on the back end right here, and man, that is ridiculously good stuff right there by Cade to find a running back, going right down the field. So good stuff and a really good tackle right there by Delane. All right, so let's talk about what LSU wants to be this year defensively. It's this. a base 4-3. So you have an in, 2 tackles, 3 linebackers, 4 defensive backs. The downside of a base 4-3 is a safety now has to guard the slot receiver, or in this case, a tight end instead of a nickel, right? And what makes this defense easier to run is if you have corners on the outside locking down Clemson's receivers, which they did, right? You can do this if your corners are pitching shutouts and you're able to play single high on the back end, okay? The problem is you have to be able to cover on the back end. So this time they do blitz Harold Perkins. They do pick it up, okay? And watch this by Perk. He actually gets a hand on this. You can see this ball looks like a tight spiral. I do think he deflected this, just not enough. And your safety, who's not necessarily a big time corner guy, misses that tackle. And then Delane, Cooley misses that tackle right here. You fall forward. Good job by DJ Pickett making a tackle right there. But that is the downside right there of the 4-3. Let's get to here. And this time, it becomes a rush 3, drop 8 situation. And it's man coverage across the way with a QB spy. This is as basic as it gets. This is Blake Baker saying, look, we don't think your guys can get off our guys. Pause. But they really can't. Mansoor Delane, boom. Look at the ball skills. Just swat that thing away. Really good stuff. Okay, final drive. We couldn't close it out on offense, so let's talk about this Blake Baker pressure package that I've been hyping up for this entire video. Let's start at the beginning of the drive where Cade throws an absolute dart right here. What the heck happened? Well, before I tell you, please hit that subscribe button, like, all that good stuff. And if it's in your heart's desire, drop a donation as well. So many different ways you could support PHL, okay? Now, this one is actually the one we tried to run earlier with Jamari Butler. So we're thinking that they're going to just run comeback routes, and we're trying to get Pyburn underneath this comeback route right here. But what actually ends up happening is they end up running something called smash, okay? So this is a high-low read, and guess what? If this defensive end, this is Jack Pyburn, is all the way back here, just hit your check down. But if not, if he's pinned in, he can hit this out route right here, and while he's getting crushed, he throws an absolute beautiful ball. But once again, take a look at the pressure and how well it's disguised, okay? There's not going to be a lot of quarterbacks that are able to make this throw, okay? Cade might be one of the 2 or 3 on LSU schedule that can get this done right here, okay? So watch what happens. We have an end in what's called a 4-eye technique. So the left guard sees that Tristan Lee smashes down to pick up the 4-eye, and they pass it off. But 50 does not see that Whit Weeks is coming from that far distance, so he gets off of it to go help another blocker over here. And guess what? We have 3 guys on 1 and a free blitzer coming through right here. Really good stuff. Just couldn't get there quite in time, and it's just a really good throw and a really good catch. 3rd and 4, and I love that Blake Baker decided to be bold in this spot, and he basically just brought everyone. The problem is we're in 0 coverage on the back end, and Harold Perkins, from where he blitzed, if somehow, some way Cade got off of this and worked right here to 6, he's walking into the end zone, right? There has to be somebody accounted for here, but we're aggressive. Blake decides to, or I say Cade decides to work quickly. He has his number 1 option going up against our number 2 corner. And guess what PJ Woodland does? He steps up in a big spot and makes a big play. And we almost pick it off. Now, this is why you got to watch all our videos. They actually missed an open slant versus South Carolina that could have won them the game. So, once again, if you put Clemson in these tough spots, they sometimes do not come through. Now, before we actually break down this final play, there's a lot of extra context that needs to go into this. So let's go to this pressure last year versus the Arkansas Razorbacks. All right. You can see that LSU is in this weird stacked alignment. There's 4 guys stacked on top of each other. And on this 3rd and 8, watch what happens. It's kind of what we talked about earlier. You're blitzing, and your faster backers are now your new contained defenders. So you can see that Taylon Green sees that this defensive end crashes inside and thinks, okay, I have contained broken here to the outside. I can outrun everyone. These are where all my receivers are. But what he doesn't see is this backer who's now starting at Auburn, Xavier Debo-Atkins, is coming around the edge right here. And now he's the new contained guy. And you also have Whit Weeks coming off the edge here. So look at how far Taylon Green has to run backwards to get around that contain. Okay? And we'll take that all day, every day. Obviously, in a perfect world, we don't want to allow him to get around us. But Taylon is an absolute beast of an athlete. So you live with that, and he gets tackled pretty hard. All right, and after that Arkansas game, Blake Baker did it a few different times in a few different alignments. So here, Brian Kelly obviously tore him up for the end of the first half, manager, and we'll talk more about that in the next couple of days. But he calls a timeout, forces Clemson to show their hand, and now LSU gets very exotic with this grouping on the field. So they take 1 defensive tackle off the field. They also take Whit Weeks off the field and replace him with Deshaun Spears. So Spears comes in for Weeks. Perkins comes in essentially for a DT. Okay? So this is where it gets really exotic. You saw in the Arkansas clip, they had a defensive tackle right here. Instead, he is here in a 3-tech. And the safety isn't right behind these two, but it's essentially the same thing. And they get a running start, and they become the new contained defenders, okay? But it's not just that they become the contained defenders. They actually do something really exotic. So I'll show it to you from the end zone angle. It may not look like too much, but you can easily see how Blake Baker totally fooled Cade Klubnik with something truly diabolical here. I mean, I really have never seen this before. All right, so to really show you how downright stupendously crazy this is, watch how badly this fools everybody on the Clemson offensive line. Okay, so pre-snap, if I were Cade or the offensive line, I would think that this slot corner is blitzing off the edge, and this guy's going in here, this guy's going in here, one of these 2 guys are coming through here, and maybe you get a blitz here, cross dog here, whatever. But pre-snap, it does look like this corner and press could come off the edge. And remember, this was set up earlier when we had a blitz, for a big sack earlier in the game. So what actually happens here is at the snap, Adam Randall, the running back, is reading that this is going to be a double A-gap pressure from LSU. And LSU does a really good job of selling this. But what happens here is the exact same thing you saw from the Arkansas pressure, where, and it's like the the Ahmad Bro twist around with the DTs, except now we're doing it with 2 linebackers here. All right, so the first thing is, the 3 MVPs of this play are the ends. Okay, Relaford didn't have any big play, but he does a good job having a wide set and giving Cade Klubnik the illusion that he is losing contain here, but he's actually doing this on purpose. Then there is a second illusion on the second level of this defense, okay? So it looks as if this is a cross dog blitz where you have this blitzer coming through here and then Harold Perkins wrapping around through this side A gap. So that's why Randall is sitting right here. But what actually happens is these 2 backers, your 2 fastest backers, he's going around here to become the new contained defender. And by design, we are forcing Cade Klubnik to run out into the contain right into the arms of Harold Perkins. Okay? That, literally, that is absolutely diabolical play calling, right? Because you saw throughout the game that LSU had done this, right? Where you had these 2 faster blitzers become new contained defenders. You saw it on the Arkansas tape. We've seen LSU run it before. We've never seen LSU actually, and like we've said, normally with twist, you're thinking it's two defensive linemen or a cross dog between a linebacker and a defensive lineman. Instead, it's two linebackers doing it. And guess what? Blake Baker fools them. All right, so Cade is thinking, hey, I'm on this rollout to the right side. There's nobody over here. Maybe I can go pick this up myself. You're not. And what have we said the entire time? No quarterback in college football is outrunning Harold Perkins. Nobody. So now Cade has no choice but to just throw this up. And Blake Baker puts Clemson to bed with one of the best defensive play called games we have ever seen in LSU history. So, floating in your face, some other fun videos, and we will talk to you soon. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom! And tonight we are doing lemon pepper chicken wings. Let's go.